Welcome back, student. In the last video we learned about the terms of position. That means the medial, lateral, superior, inferior, supromedial, infralateral, like that. Various terms we have learned. Now this video is for the terms of movement. Thus we are on the general anatomy lecture series, where the first lecture was just an introduction to the subject of anatomy. Then in the second lecture is anatomical terminology, and this is the third in the anatomical terminology. The previous two, the first was on anatomical position and various planes. The second was on the terms of positions: anterior, posterior, medial, lateral, superior or inferior, which I have explained you in the last lecture. Now this lecture is on the terms of movements. Okay, so this is the third in the series of anatomical terminology. Okay, so let us see what are the movements which are possible in the parts of the body, okay, in the various joints, okay, and they are defined by a specific name, the names which the medical people they use, not the layman's, okay, not the layman's. So these are the specific kind of the words, okay, which are called as the terms of movement. Okay, so I am moving on to the next. Okay, now the various movement which takes place at various joint in human body are recognized in medical science by specific names, by the people who are working in the health professions. Okay, not only doctors, paramedical peoples, nurses and all others, they are who are even the researchers which are working on to the medical science, they use these terms. Okay, these words which describe these movements are called as terms of, that I have already explained you. In this lecture we shall learn about these terms of movement. Now let us come to the first term of movements, okay, and these terms, like that of the terms of position, anterior, posterior, superior, inferior, these terms of movements are the words which describe the movements. They also come in pair, and also they have the opposite meaning. They have the opposite. For example, the first pair of the term which describe the movement a joint is the flexion, and its opposite is extension. So they will come in pair, flexion and extension. Okay, now what is flexion movement? Flexion is the bending of part in the of the limbs, mostly limbs. Trunk also flexes or extends. Okay, but here I will tell you very simplified thing on the limbs. Okay, what is flexion in the limb? It is the bending of the part in sagittal plane. So again we have come to use this plane, sagittal plane. And what is sagittal plane? It is parallel to the median plane or midline plane. Okay, parallel to the median. So it takes place in sagittal plane. Okay, for example, here let us see this pointer, and here you are standing in anatomical position, and from there you have started lifting your forearm at the elbow by bending it at the elbow joint. This movement is the flexion movement. Okay, so here the angle between the forearm and arm is reduced here. See, this angle is less as compared to this angle between as you were standing in anatomical position. So you are bringing the forearm towards the arm, and here the two anterior or flexor surface of forearm and the arm, they are coming close to each other. They are coming, otherwise the flexor surface of the arm and forearm, they were away from each other. So this movement at the elbow joint is called as flexion of the forearm, okay, at the elbow. Flexion of the forearm and hand at the elbow joint. So this is called as flexion, right? But if you will see the same flexion with the corresponding joint, which is elbow in the upper limb, here it is the knee joint, you will see that here it is also the bringing the two flexor surface here, okay, come close to each other, and angle is reduced between thigh and that of the leg. Okay, thigh and the leg. Okay, so these two surfaces, they are coming close to each other. They are coming similar to that one which was taking place in the upper limb at the elbow joint. Here the flexion is taking place at the knee joint, where the leg is coming close to that of the thigh. Okay. Right, so this is the flexion, okay, and just opposite to it will be the extension, opposite movement, as it comes in pairs, okay. And extension is here, this is where the arm, I mean say forearm, not arm, the forearm and hand, they are moving, yeah, towards the anatomical position. That is, they are going backward, away from each other, away from arm and forearm. Two surfaces, they are going flexor surfaces, they are going away from each other. Thus the angle between arm and forearm is increasing, okay, increasing. So this opposite movement is called as the extension movement. Same is true for the lower limb. Here if you will bring the leg again towards the anatomical position, this will be called as the extension movement. Again the leg is going away from the thigh, okay, and angle between the thigh and the leg is increasing. So these are the two movements which comes in pair and have opposite meaning, flexion and extension. Okay, now the flexion and extension at the foot are little different. Okay, what is there here? This is the dorsal surface of foot. This surface is called as dorsal surface. Okay, and the opposite surface here is the plantar surface. It is, or the sole. Okay, sole of the foot. Okay, so you know sole of the foot, and this is the dorsal surface of the foot. And this leg, anterior surface of leg here, this surface, anterior surface of leg, is also called as the dorsal surface. Now here when the dorsal surface of the leg is moving at the ankle joint, okay, and these two surfaces are coming closer to each other at the ankle joint. That is, the foot is coming close to that of the anterior aspect of the leg. Then this movement is called as dorsiflexion. And let me tell you that all this flexion and extension in the upper limb or lower limb and the dorsiflexion at the ankle joint, they all take place in the sagittal plane. They are taking place in the sagittal, and you know what is sagittal plane, okay. Now, just opposite of dorsiflexion will be the plantar flexion. But this plantar flexion you can only produce when your foot is off the ground. Okay, that means you have to lift your foot. Okay, and then produce that plantar flexion. Okay, plantar, where the dorsal surface of the foot is going away from the anterior ventral aspect of the leg. Okay, and that's why the angle is increasing. And where this movement is taking place, it is taking place at the ankle joint. So this is dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. The terms are little different than flexion and extension, but it helps us to remember that dorsi means two dorsal surfaces, they come close to, and plantar flexion means the sole surface goes away from the leg. Okay, it goes away towards the ground, it goes towards the ground. Okay, you should remember this dorsiflexion and the plantar flexion, right? Okay, then another pair of the movements called as the abduction and adduction. Abduction and adduction. And this is mostly used in relation to the limbs. But the abduction and adduction can also be used in relation to the trunk. When your trunk moves to the one side, okay, whole trunk, that is called as the lateral flexion. Okay. Now let us see first what is abduction and what is adduction. Opposite movements and opposite terms. Abduction means going away. Our parts moves away from the median plane. See this. Here is the abduction of the upper limb. This is anatomical position. And from anatomical position, when you move your arm at shoulder joint, okay, which is going thus away from this median plane, then this movement is called as abduction. Ab means away, okay? Abducted. We say na sometime he was abducted. So this is called as abduction, moving away from the median plane, okay? And in which plane these movements are taking place? They are taking place just opposite at right angle to the median or sagittal plane, okay? These are taking place at in relation to the coronal planes, in the coronal, right angle to the sagittal, or it is coronal. So this direction is the coronal plane, right? So this is the abduction movements, okay? Right, okay? And when you see the abduction movement in the lower limb, that it is same, okay? The same thing is there. The limb is moving away, it is abduction, away from median plane, and coming back to the original position in anatomical position. That is called as adduction. So let us learn what is adduction. Adduction means add, add. You know what is add, okay? Where two limbs they are added to each other like that. That way you can remember what is the meaning of adduction. The part moves towards the median plane. Here the part is moving, that the limb, upper limb or lower limb from this abducted position is going back to the same position. It is called as the median plane. So movement is in, again, coronal plane. It is in the coronal. So it is abduction or adduction. This is called as abduction or adduction, which are in relation to that of the limbs, okay, in relation to the limbs, because they are taking place in the coronal plane. Moving to the next slide. Right, let us see this next slide. Okay, this is the abduction and adduction in fingers of hand. Okay, the fingers of hand and that of the toes of the feet will have the different movement, little different, because here the axis of movement is not passing through the median plane of the body. Okay, right? Why it is not passing through median plane of the body in the foot and the leg? Because there are uh, foot and two legs. I mean say two hands, okay, and two foot. That is the reason why it cannot be a single plane which will tell you the movements, okay? So the median plane of the hand passes through the third finger. See this dotted line here? This is the third finger or middle finger through which this plane is passing, okay, this plane. So now in this, abduction will be when the fingers they go away from each other, except the third remain stationary and fingers are going away. Say for example, this is ring finger and little finger will go on to the lateral side, and this is index finger and thumb, they will go towards the medial side or towards the median plane, okay, medial side of the body. So I'm sorry, this hand is of different side, okay, this is the right hand. So the ring finger and that of the little finger will go towards the median plane or towards the body, okay, in anatomical position, and that of the index and the thumb will go away from the body. That means away from the, here the plane, away from this median plane, but in relation to our whole body they will go to the lateral side, okay. So this two finger goes medially, this two finger goes laterally, and the middle fingers remain stationary at this point. That movement is called as abduction movements of the fingers of hand, right? And just opposite will be what? Adduction. Now this adduction means when you will bring these fingers close to the little, I will say this middle finger, that will be adduction. Okay, both the diagrams are abduction. So adduction only will be shown by that of the arrows. When these fingers they will come close to each other, so that will touch each other, that condition is called as the adduction. And when they go away from each other, that condition is called as abduction. It is called as the abduction. The same will be true for the foot. And here but the plane is passing through the second toe. Here instead of finger, huh? We call the toes. Okay, the great toes is most medially placed, then second, third, fourth, and fifth. So the axis is passing through the second toe, and then the spreading of the toes in relation to second toe is called as abduction, and then coming close to each other will be the adduction in relation to that of the foot. So this is abduction and adduction in the hand. Okay, now in another terms of movement, okay, which is taking place at the ankle joint, okay. Other joints are also involved in it, which I will not name them. Just simply remember at this stage, since you are the beginner, very fresh. Okay, inversion and eversion. Okay, two terms are inversion. Here inversion means when the sole of the foot, okay, sole of the foot, it faces towards the median plane or medially, towards the median plane is passing like this, okay. So when the sole of the foot is facing medially, this is called as inversion, and when the sole of the foot faces laterally, this is called as eversion. Okay, so remember, in means towards inside and ev means the outside. Okay, so inversion and eversion. When you will draw this diagram, you will understand it. Okay, just draw a rough diagram and try to understand. The arrow are showing the direction of the movement. So medial movement is of the sole, I mean say foot, where the sole faces medially is inversion, and the lateral movement of the sole where the sole faces laterally, of the foot movement where the sole faces laterally, it is called as the eversion. Easy, okay, easy to understand. Now what is rotation? For understanding the rotation, one has to keep the limb, okay, where this rotation is taking place. It is in the anatomical position, okay. So in anatomical position, okay, this diagram is showing you that this axis is passing through this, okay. So this is the dotted line through which the axis is passing, and this is showing the rotation, okay. The rotation here in the upper limb, okay, upper limb. Uh, Here the part of the body, as I am showing you the upper limb here, it will turn around its own longitudinal axis. Okay, the limb will turn around. It has nothing to do with the whole body. Okay, it is only the limb. Okay, so axis is passing through the limb longitudinally, and along this axis, when this part of the upper limb, they are the whole upper limb, when it rotates medially, okay, it will go. That means this outer border, medially means when this outer border in anatomical position, when try will to rotate medial side, that is called as the medial. Try to do it in your hand, okay, after keeping it in anatomical position, okay. So the anterior surface of the arm, okay, it will turn medially. This is anterior surface, okay, or the ventral surface, and when it will turn medially, so that the your palm will start facing posteriorly, okay, and the palmar surface will facing posteriorly. Then second is the lateral rotation, okay, and this is just opposite of the medial rotation as shown by this rotating arrow. When this, from this medial rotated position, when the limb will rotate laterally to come back to the anatomical position, and then further you can also from anatomical position you can further rotate it laterally. That is called as the lateral. Try to do it in your own body, I'm saying in your own upper limb. Let us come to one more term, what is called as the pronation and supination. This is important, okay. What is pronation? Again, stand in anatomical position, your upper limb, okay. In this, the movement of forearm and hand, okay, forearm and hand, they are rotated medially, just like we have done in the medial rotation. So the palm faces complete posteriorly, okay. So you rotate this, okay, the forearm, and your hand, attached hand will also will be rotated along with the forearm. So when the front of the palm, it will face posteriorly, okay, okay, by rotating it medially, this movement is called as pronation. This movement is called. So in this pronation, your upper limb will be hanging by the side, but forearm will be showing the dorsal aspect anteriorly, and the hand will be also showing the dorsal aspect anteriorly. But this pronation can also be, I mean to say, demonstrated while your elbow is flexed. So make your elbow flex at right angle will be there with the arm. So flex your elbow, okay, till it comes to the right angle with the arm. And then now perform the pronation movement. Turn your forearm along with the hand so as to the palmar aspect of the hand goes and faces downwards. Downwards means towards the ground because your elbow is already flexed. So the dorsum of your hand or the dorsal aspect, it should face towards the roof, towards the upward, okay, upward or towards the roof. That condition in flex position, okay, is at the elbow, semi-flex, you can call it, at the elbow is called as the pronation. Just opposite of this is supination. So from this point you can rotate in opposite direction, that is in lateral direction. If you rotate, okay, either you are standing by hanging the arm by the side as it is shown in this diagram, or with the help of semi-flex position, then the supination is will be called when the palm faces anteriorly, when this person is standing forward, or when you are in the semi-flex position at elbow joint. In this condition, the palm will face towards the roof. Previously in pronation, the dorsal surface was facing towards the roof. Now it is the palm which will face towards the roof. Okay, so this is the supination, pronation, and just do it very easily. You can do it and understand this pronation and supination. Right, then there is a movement which is called a circumduction movement. Okay, when I will teach you the shoulder joint, I will tell you that it is the joint which with the free movements. You can move it in any direction. And when the movement takes place at the shoulder joint in circular fashion, okay, as during the bowling of the cricket ball, you hold the cricket ball in your hand, and then while running you are moving your arm, complete circle, you are moving your arm, and that movement is so it is combination of many movement which we have learned just now. It is combination of flexion, it is combination of extension, and all these movements are taking place where they are taking place in the shoulder joint. Okay, extension, then there will be abduction, adduction at shoulder, and rotation. Okay, and that combination of this movement you can analyze with the help of your teacher, these different movements which takes place during this complex movement of circumduction. Okay, so this is called a circumduction movement, which is very free in the shoulder joint. To certain extent you can do the circumduction in the hip joint also, when the foot is off the ground. Okay, but this is not as free as that. So you can do to some extent the circumduction at the wrist joint. Okay, just take a fist, and then rotate your wrist joint, okay, in one direction. Okay, I'm showing you in the other direction. This is also a kind of circumduction, but not a true circumduction, okay, where it is as free as it is in the shoulder joint. Okay, in the shoulder joint, right. Right, then there is a movement called as opposition. In this diagram, the thumb is touching to that of the little finger like this. Okay, the thumb is touching to that of the little. You can, as you do it in counting, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is counting movement. So the tip of the thumb touches other fingers, as in counting, is called as the opposition movement. Elevation and depression. Okay, elevate means bring that part towards the head, that is elevation, and depression means part of the body depressed towards inferiorly or towards the feet. Okay, inferiorly. So this is diagram is showing. Okay, I could not draw a very beautiful diagrams, just it is good for learning. Elevation, okay, where the she is moving her shoulder towards the, as I am also moving, see me, I am moving my shoulder towards the head. So this is the elevation, and the opposite will be the depression. Inferiorly, it is depression, elevation, and that of the depression. And lastly, this is the protraction and retraction. Protraction and retraction. Write down the spelling. Protraction and retraction. Protraction means the part of the body which moves forwards or anteriorly, right? Part of the body which moves forward anteriorly. You know what is anteriorly and what is posteriorly by this time. So body moves forward, it is anteriorly, and when body part of the body moves backward towards the back, it is called as or posteriorly, it is called as the retraction, or bringing back to the protruded part to its normal position. That is also called as retraction. For example, when you protrude your tongue, see me, I will protrude my tongue. This movement of the tongue, which is a part of the body, is the tongue, and it is moving forward anteriorly towards the anterior surface or away from the anterior surface. Okay, that is called as protraction, and bringing back my tongue in the mouth will be called as the retraction. So students, you have learned the terms of movements in this video. So the orientation as far as the terminology or language we speak in the medical science is over. Okay, and now we will go to the actual general anatomy classes. Okay, and next video will be on the skin, because skin you met first during the dissection. Okay, when you we start cutting the body, the first you will cut the skin. So we will take in the same order from above downward. Okay, I mean say superficial to deep, as you will meet the structure in dissection. Okay, and that is the correct way to teach you. Okay, correct way. Thank you very much for watching this video, though it become a little lengthier. Okay.